So welcome class 7 children to another learning session for English, and today we will again be taking a story, and it is chapter number 1. You have pages 7 to 8 and the title of the story is 3 questions. So when you listen and when you read to this title 3 questions, it means that there has to be something related to asking a question. Now, who is that supposed to be asking and whether he gets the answers or not, we are going to find out in this story. Now, this story, it's a big one, so I have divided it into 2 parts. So, this is your first part of the story. All right, so this is a king who's thinking about the 3 questions, who's thinking about something, and soon he's going to ask people around him. All right, so this is the king. He thought there was a thought that came to a certain king, and he thought that if he was getting the answers to those thoughts, he will never fail. So there were 3 things that he wanted to ask, and he thought if he got those answers to those 3 things, he will never ever fail in this world. So the story's author is Leo, and he's an Russian author. He's always written realistic fiction. So fiction basically is something which is not real, but he tends to you tend to start believing in the stories that you read. And he's also one of the world's greatest novelists. So Tolstoy is best known for his 2 longest work, that was War and Peace, the most famous one, and Anna. So let's move on, and this is how the Russian author looks like. So the 3 things that the king wanted to know was what is the right time to begin something, which people should he listen to, and what is the most important thing for him to do. So right time to begin, what are the people he should be listening to, and what is the most important thing for him to do. So the king therefore sent messengers throughout his kingdom, and he thought that I'm going to send people around asking these questions, and whoever is able to give me the answers, he promised a large sum of money to them who would answer them. Many wise men came to the king, but they all answered his questions very, very differently. So in reply to the first question, some people said the king must prepare a timetable and then follow it well. So what was the question is, what was the right time to begin something? So they say that have a timetable and then follow it strictly. Some said that he could do everything at its proper time. Others said it was impossible to decide in advance the right time for doing something. The king should notice all that was going on, avoid foolish pleasures, and always do whatever seemed necessary at that time. So they wanted the king to do everything at that uh, everything without seeking any kind of pleasure. Yet others said that the king needed a council of wise men who would help him act at the proper time. So who are there who should be helping? What are the people that he should listen to? They said maybe a council of wise men, and they would also tell him when to start or when to do the work. This was because one man would find it impossible to decide correctly without help from others. So the right time for every action. So that's why they thought that wise people should be advising the king. But then others said that there were some things which could be urgent, and these things could not wait for the decision of the council. So in order to decide the right time for doing something, it is necessary to look into the future. And who can look into the future? The magician, the astrologers. So they said that the king should go to the magician, and maybe the magician can tell when should I start to work, and what are the people that he should be listening to. So that was the second question that he had. So in answer to those questions, some said that the people most necessary to the king were his counselors, others said the priest, few others also chose doctors, and yet some people said soldiers. Why soldiers were most necessary? Because the soldiers are the ones who are winning the wars for him. and what is the most important thing for him to do. So, to answer this third question, some said you should refer to science, some said that you should only choose to fight wars, and some said no, words are not necessary. The only best thing for you to do is worship. So let's continue. The king was not happy with the answers, and so that's why he rewards nobody. For looking for his answers, looking for people to answer his question, he decides that he's going to visit a hermit, and maybe he will be able to tell him the answer to those three questions. So, who's a hermit? Who lives alone and he leads a very, very simple life, and he was known for his wisdom, for his intelligence. The hermit lived in a wood which he never left. So, if you say another word for wood, it would be a forest or a jungle. He saw no one but simple people. So, he was not willing to meet kings and queens. So, that is why the king thinks that, okay, maybe I have to put some ordinary clothes so that he doesn't recognize me. Before he reached the hermit's hut, the king left his horse with his bodyguard and went on alone. As the king came near the hermit's hut, he saw the hermit digging the ground. He greeted the king and continued digging. The hermit was old and weak, and as he worked, he breathed heavily. So, when you're digging the ground like this, what happens is you're out of breath. And because the hermit was very old and he was also not a very strong man, he starts breathing heavily. But he is not talking to the king, he continues to do what he's doing. So here we see the king dressed simply as a common man, and the old and the weak is the hermit. The king went up to the hermit and said, I have come to you, wise hermit, to ask you answer to my three questions. How can I learn to do the right thing at the right time? Who are the people I need most? And what affairs are the most important? So these are the three questions that I wanted the answer to. The hermit listened to the king, but again did not speak. He went on digging. You are tired, said the king. Let me take the spade and work in your place. Thanks, said the hermit, giving the king his spade, and then he sat on the ground. So he's wished and he said thanks, but nothing else is coming from the hermit. When the king had dug two beds, he stopped and repeated his questions. The hermit gave no answer but stood up, stretching out his hand for the spade. So, stretching out is when you're trying to take that spade from his hand, because he realizes the king has worked a lot and he's rested enough and he wants to take the spade back and starts working. And said, Now you rest and let me work. But the king did not give him the spade and continued to dig. 1 hour passed and then another. So he's been here for almost the entire day. The sun went down behind the trees, and at last the king stuck the spade into the ground and said, I came to you, wise man, for answers to my questions. So he says, if you can give me no answer, tell me so, and I will return home. So the king is asking, and the hermit is just not willing to answer. And in the end, he gets really irritated and he says that if you don't want to answer my questions, it's absolutely fine. Just let me know, and I will leave and I will go back home. And at that point of time, hermit says, Oh, here, someone is coming, someone comes running. And we're going to end the story here. We'll continue in the next class. But before I leave, we're going to have some word meanings that I wanted to explain to you, and some questions also. So we heard a lot, we read a lot about this word called digging. So this is how you dig. So it is basically a gardening thing, or if you are an agriculturist, so if you are a farmer, this is how you dig, or you move the earth to plant a tree or to plant a seed. So you can see those two children digging the earth and trying to plant a plant. Then they also said the name spade. So this is how a spade looks like. It is a tool that is used for digging. Stretching, I explained that he was trying to take that spade away from the king. So that is how you stretch. Sometimes if you are waking up early in the morning, you stretch your hands and you stretch your legs also to get fresh. All right, so let's go to the question that I had for you. So, this is, who does the king think of visiting? Now, he sent messengers, and there are so many people coming up with the answers, but the king is still not satisfied. So, when the king is not satisfied, who does he go and who does he think of visiting? So, yes, the answer is that he thinks of visiting the hermit. And hermit is a person who's a very simple person who lives in the forest, and he lives all by himself. So he's a nice, kind, and a pious kind of a man. So hermit is person who lives alone, a lonely life in the forest. All right, so now I had 5 sentences for you, and these are fill in the blanks with appropriate words. So the words are already there in the sentence for you in the bracket. So you have to just change the verb form here. So the first one is, I visit the Taj Mahal yesterday. So yesterday means a day which has already passed. So visit is going to be in your past tense. So instead of saying I visit the Taj Mahal yesterday, we are going to be saying I visited the Taj Mahal yesterday. Let's go to number 2 sentence. Dad, and the word in the bracket is take, us to the park yesterday. Again, yesterday, it means it's telling you the action has already happened. So Dad took us to the park yesterday. My sister play with a dolphin. So my sister played with a dolphin. It can also be my sister plays with a dolphin if it is happening right now. Both would be correct. The children were asked to return home. So it has to be a tense, that is going to be a past tense. The children were asked to return home. So these were the words. If you can find any other exercise which has different verb forms, that is your present, past and future, you can refer, and you can also do a lot many other exercises with the same verb forms. So we come to the end of the story. What we did today was that there is a king who's asking 3 questions. He thinks if he's able to get those answers, he will be the strong person, and he will not there will be nobody who would be able to win him over. So he doesn't want to lose, and that's why he's looking for those answers. He doesn't get the answers, hence he visits the hermit. So we're going to continue and see if the hermit is prepared to give the answers to him, or he's left with still searching for the answers. So bye bye for now.